Alright, welcome back to another Games Post-Mortem. My name is Kyle with Jack7 Games, and today we're looking at Tumultiverse. This was a game that unfortunately did not get finished. This one had a motherboard, kind of just stopped working on this one. And if you watched my previous episodes, you know I'm kind of bad at backing up my work, but we're getting better at that. So let's just start this and I'll explain more about it as we go. So kind of the premise of this game is supposed to be like multiverses colliding, which is just a way of me having interesting enemies and different types of scenery. And also kind of a explanation for when you die, you know, you just kind of go to a different multiverse, not necessarily restarting. And the gimmick, essentially gimmick, behind this game was it's quote-unquote I was not good at cameras back then. This is kind of the same problem we have with Clops, actually, now that I'm looking at it. It is procedurally generated, quote-unquote. Basically what I did was I took the same script that allowed for randomly instantiated power-ups from Shell. And this game basically just every bit of the world is a certain size. They're all the same size, and they all have a same point where they instantiate. So basically, let's say here, for instance, there might be a point right here where it instantiates this group, where it's just a flat land with trees, and then right here, let's say that the next spot is where it instantiates these moving platforms. This one was supposed to have like an NES Mega Man-ish look to it. And also this character, who I don't know if I ever say it in game, his name is Schrodinger. He was featured in Toast Hatter's previous game that I don't think he ever finished, which was kind of a precursor to what he's working on now, which is Duels of Fortune. I don't think he put this character in Duels of Fortune, but if you look at his games Post-Mortem, I'll put the link. I'll put the link in the description so you can see it as well. And this is going to be an interesting one to do a playthrough with, because I'll have to go back and play through it a bit, and I'll cut a lot of it out. Primarily because at the end of each stage, and I don't remember how far along this is, so I also might have to play around with it and edit a bit. At the end of each stage is a boss. And it's one of two bosses that's also randomly instantiated. Oh, that's lovely right there. Foreground is missing right there. And depending on which boss you fight, it'll send you to the next set of levels. So this guy, I believe he sends you to Incorporated Inc. That was the name. Woo. And this game was, I think, about 90% done. Not a lot was left. There's I think there's a couple scenes where it's kind of broken. And a couple scenes don't link up correctly, and if I come across those, I will edit them out. Yay. So I think this takes us to Incorporated Inc. Yes. And This one's all businessmen. And a lot of the enemies kind of follow the same skeleton on how they're animated. This is also my first time trying mechanim type animation, which, if you're not familiar with it, it's basically instead of a sprite that's all animated, every character is made up of certain parts. Like Schrodinger here, the main character, he's a head. One sprite is a head. One sprite is, or two sprites are for each arm, two sprites for each leg and the feet. And then basically you just set the animator for its movements rather than going in frame by frame. Background looks a lot better than I remember, actually. And a couple of kind of Easter egg right here. It's supposed to be like Cranacube Corporation computers. I guess kind of trying to tie it all in together. Not necessarily going for... one person described it having like your own extended universe or whatever. I guess kind of. I'm just more of a fan of... I'm a big fan of Kevin Smith movies. And I always liked how the first set of movies, like Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, they all take place, I think, within like a span of... I know Clerks and Mallrats take place one day apart. And you don't really know, it's all through dialogue. I just kind of want to have little Easter eggs thrown about. And that probably won't end anytime soon. Especially if you played Neo Force Gaiden. Yeah, and sometimes you get caught up on... Oh, awesome. Yeah, I think one thing that wasn't finished is you don't power down some things when you die. Like, I still have triple shot rather than a single shot. I think some things get taken away. Some things transfer over, some things don't, because this was never finished. But yeah, I kind of want to have this Kevin Smith-esque, I guess if you want to call it extended universe. But I'm probably, as of Neo Force, it won't be probably the last time I use Cranacube. And Cranacube is probably something, yeah, I'll keep using that for personal reasons, which I may or may not get into one day. Let's see what boss we get. Whoa, 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 whoa. I forgot that acid was instant kill. So depending on how this goes, I'll probably do 2 levels per episode, and then I'll go back at the end and kind of do a little bit of cleanup to make sure all the levels are presented. Looking back, this one was definitely at the time the biggest game, especially considering how many levels were planned. I don't remember how many are in this build. And if this looks interesting to you, please check it out. It's free. It's not, like I said, it's not finished. But if you want to check it out, by all means, it's on the Jack7's itch.io page, or itch. Is it itch.io or itch.io? I never knew. Yeah, it's definitely only 2 levels for this episode, unless you want to continue watching me die. Jetpack. I forgot this had a jetpack. So one of the power-ups just kind of gives you an extra... It's a double jump, essentially. I think that was originally left over from the MC Chris fan game I was making, which there is a reference to that in this game as well. I'll bring that up when I come across it. But yeah, so basically every... we'll just say chunk of levels when it randomly instantiates a chunk of level. It pretty much goes through. Pretty much goes through. It pretty much just goes through an array of, I think, there's 50 each. It's also not supposed to be doing that particle so many times at once. I don't remember what caused that, though. Okay, let's get through this. Hopefully I don't fall through any more floors. Which is a lot harder than I remember. Also bear in mind, I have not played this in... It's been years. I would say at least 4 years? 3 years? 4 years? So I don't remember how everything kind of moved. Or how everything moved, how everything reacted, or how... I don't remember the acid being one-hit kills, but I remember those being one-hit kills. I think those, if you watch the Shell playthrough, I'm pretty sure those are either reused from Shell or they're very similar to the ones in Shell. Much like how in Shell, if you watch that one, there's a boss that I said kind of comes up in this game. We'll see if we get him or not. Acid pits. It should be close. Because while the chunks of level are randomly set, the bosses are always set at a fixed distance. Okay, let's see which boss this is. It's either going to be the guy with the big hands or... No, okay, so this one is similar to one we saw in Shell. Except I believe he's telegraphed a bit better. I think one was like kind of a Mega Man-ish dinosaur. He doesn't flash like the skeleton did. Perfect, that works. Okay, so we're going to call it here. The next episode we'll look at Wild West Mars.